This is St. Ambrose Catholic Church on the east side of Detroit. Like most Catholic parishes in the 1950s, St. Ambrose had a high school and a football team. Both are now long gone, but my introduction to football came in 1959 when I was a third grader at St. Ambrose, a co-ed school with fewer than 400 students. In a 5-year span, St. Ambrose won 4 city championships and 3 Michigan State titles. The 2 head coaches then went on to win 6 Super Bowl rings. Tom Boyster, who won 2 as the personnel director of the New York Giants, and George Perlis, who won 4 as the defensive coach with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They gave me an appreciation of how coaching can tilt the field, how a great scheme or a great game plan can defeat great players.
Listen to me. Once he feels he has an edge, he's not going to come back.
You may not know their names because they're practically invisible, but I've always said, if you want a soundbite, go to the head coach.
I think I'll take credit for that since it worked.
If you want a quote, go to a player. But if you want an education in football, go to an assistant coach.
Look what Sean Lee's doing. You're slowing down. He takes 2 steps. You get 2. That's good.
I covered the Giants for 2 years, the Chiefs for 13, and the Cowboys for 2 more, and got to know assistant coaches in every building. Whenever I had a question, they had an answer.
If we have anything like that.
In those 13 years I spent on the Chiefs beat, I covered only 1 playoff game. My peers considered me in football purgatory because I had to report on a bad team year after year after year. But my time in Kansas City was the best thing that could have happened to my career as an NFL writer. The Chiefs were so bad, they were changing head coaches every 3 years. And with every new head coach came a new staff of assistants.
I mean in terms of time, like a 5.
So during those 13 years in Kansas City, I met just about every assistant coach in the league. That widened my network of contacts and my knowledge of the game. As time went on, those coaches scattered, and I would know assistants or head coaches in every NFL building. When I covered Super Bowls in the 1970s, I'd exchange pleasantries with Perlis, who was first the defensive line coach and later the coordinator of the Steelers.
He's got to close it. Because you start screwing with that, they're going to go up inside of you.
When I covered Super Bowls in the 1980s, I'd exchange pleasantries with Sherman Lewis, another former Michigan State crony with 3 Super Bowl rings from the 49ers.
Food you scared. Time to go open up. Look inside for the back.
I was there in New York in 1975 when the Giants gave Marty Schottenheimer his first NFL coaching gig as a linebacker coach. Our paths would cross again 14 years later when Marty became head coach of the Chiefs.
You're fighting your ass off. Keep grinding on them.
As a reporter, I hit the mother lode. Marty brought along a staff that included future head coaches Bill Cowher, Tony Dungy, and Bruce Arians. I could tell right away Cowher and Dungy were special.
Motion from pro to slot, from slot to pro.
Both had played in the NFL, and both were in their early 30s, not much older than the players they were coaching. So they could connect with their players on 2 levels.
Knows, man, we got to be able to come off and make the play.
And those players responded to them. Both would go on to win Super Bowls as head coaches.
The Colts are world champions.
The Pittsburgh Steelers did it the hard way.
When I covered the Big 8 in 1979, I became friendly with Jimmy Johnson and his staff at Oklahoma State. 11 years later, when I moved to Dallas, I again hooked up with Johnson and the bulk of his college staff, Dave Wannstedt, Butch Davis, and Tony Wise. The Cowboys had the youngest team in the NFL, and like college, Jimmy wanted a staff of teachers.
You should outrun them, use our hands and get off the blocks to make the tackles.
They drilled the players on fundamentals and became a team that didn't beat itself in winning 3 Super Bowls. I watched as Davis transformed 7th-round defensive tackle Leon Lett into a Pro Bowler, as did Wise with 3rd-round offensive tackle Eric Williams.
By the center, good, right there, okay?
In 1992, the Dallas Morning News moved me off the Cowboys to the NFL beat, which gave me entree to the 27 other NFL buildings. That allowed me to interview and absorb defensive philosophy from Nick Saban in Cleveland. Jimmy Ray schooled me on the power running game in Kansas City.
Right up the middle, runs over the first defender, slam, wham!
Dave McGinnis taught me Chicago's 46 defense, and Dick LeBeau educated me on the zone blitz in Pittsburgh.
The vertical hook on the goal. Take either one of them guys over the middle.
Assistant coaches work in the shadows. They are in the office long before the sun comes up, and long after the sun goes down. Yet the head coaches and players tend to get all the credit.
To the absolute best.
But I've seen the players those assistant coaches have developed.
Do you know what I mean?
And the game plans they formulated. I know their value to their teams
continues to pick up.
and their value to me as a reporter. In my 5 decades covering football, I found the best reporters are often the best listeners, especially when assistant coaches are talking. The listening started for me at St. Ambrose. I'm still listening.